Over 400 direct hits from the most powerful navy on the planet. It still would not go down. The British had to stop firing because they were running out of ammunition. In the end, the crew of the Bismarck sank their own ship. Today, it sits 3 miles beneath the Atlantic, perfectly upright, guns still mounted, and no one is ever allowed to go near it. Most people have heard the name Bismarck. What they do not know is what happened after it disappeared beneath the waves, what it looks like down there, and why Germany has permanently sealed it off from the rest of the world. Some of what I found while researching this genuinely surprised me. When Germany launched the Bismarck in 1940, it was one of the largest warships Europe had ever seen. It was over 800 feet long, more than 50,000 tons fully loaded, and carried 8 massive 15-inch guns in 4 turrets. A crew of roughly 2,200 men operated her. The German propaganda machine called her unsinkable. That claim aged badly. The Bismarck had an active military career of just 8 days. In May 1941, she sailed out of the Baltic on her first real mission, Operation Rheinübung. She was supposed to slip into the open Atlantic alongside the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen and tear apart the Allied supply convoys running between America and Britain. On the 24th of May, it crossed paths with 2 Royal Navy warships in the Denmark Strait, the battleship Prince of Wales and the legendary battlecruiser Hood. The engagement lasted just minutes. A shell from the Bismarck punched through the Hood's deck and hit her ammunition stores. The blast split the ship in half. She went under in less than 3 minutes. Out of 1,421 men aboard, 3 survived. It was the single deadliest loss the Royal Navy had ever suffered from one vessel. Britain's response was immediate and absolute. Every available warship was thrown into the hunt. The order was simple: find the Bismarck and destroy it regardless of the cost. But the Bismarck had taken a hit too. A shell had ruptured one of her fuel tanks, bleeding around 1,000 tons of oil into the sea and leaving a trail behind her. The captain turned toward occupied France, heading for the port of Brest for emergency repairs. For nearly 36 hours, the British lost contact entirely. The Bismarck vanished into the dark Atlantic while pursuers searched in the wrong direction. Then the German admiral made a critical mistake. Believing the British were still tracking him, he broke radio silence to transmit a long report back to command. The signal was intercepted, and the chase was back on. On the evening of May 26th, torpedo bombers launched from the carrier Ark Royal made their attack. Most missed or bounced off the armored belt, but one torpedo struck the stern and locked the rudders in a hard turn. The Bismarck could no longer steer. She began tracing wide, helpless circles in the open ocean, unable to reach the French coast, unable to do anything but wait. The crew worked through the night trying to free the jammed rudders. They failed. The next morning, 2 British battleships moved in alongside heavy cruisers. What followed was not a naval battle. It was a demolition. Over 2,800 shells were fired. More than 400 found their target. One by one, the Bismarck's turrets went silent. The superstructure was torn apart. Casualties were devastating. And here's the part that stunned me. After nearly 2 hours of continuous fire at close range, the ship would not sink. The armored hull held. The British physically could not put her under with guns alone. If you are finding this interesting, do me a quick favor and subscribe. I'm making more of these deep dives into forgotten military history, and I do not want you to miss the next one. Now let me tell you what happened after it went down. It was the Bismarck's own crew who ended it. With the ship wrecked beyond any hope of survival and hundreds of men still alive below, the order came to scuttle. They opened the sea valves, set demolition charges, and let the ocean pour in. The Bismarck slid under, stern first, at 10:39 in the morning. Of her crew of roughly 2,200, only 114 were pulled from the water. For 48 years, nobody knew exactly where it landed. Then, in 1989, Robert Ballard, the same man who found the Titanic, located the wreck. What he saw on the ocean floor defied expectations. The Bismarck is sitting perfectly upright on the seabed, roughly 600 miles west of France, at a depth of about 15,700 feet. That is nearly 3 miles down. Despite everything it endured, the hull is largely intact. In places, the original teak decking is still there. Paint is still visible on the exterior. Anti-aircraft guns remain in their mounts. Ballard noted something critical. There was no implosion damage. When a ship sinks with air still trapped inside, the crushing pressure at depth destroys it from within. The Bismarck showed none of that. The compartments were already flooded before she reached the bottom, which lines up perfectly with the scuttling. The crew had done their job. Most experts agree that battle damage would have eventually sunk her, but the men aboard beat the ocean to it. So why has no one gone back to salvage it? The depth alone makes recovery nearly impossible. 15,700 feet is far beyond what conventional salvage technology can reach. The deepest successful large-scale recoveries in history have happened at a fraction of that depth. Reaching the Bismarck requires specialized deep-sea submersibles built for scientific research, not commercial operations. There is no existing technology that can raise a 50,000-ton warship from 3 miles beneath the surface. But even if someone solved the depth problem, they would still face a legal wall. The wreck belongs to Germany, and the German government has made its position completely clear. The Bismarck is a formally designated war grave. Around 2,100 men are entombed inside it. Any attempt to enter the wreck or remove material from it requires government consent, and that consent will not be granted. They consider it a burial site, and that is the end of the conversation. Ballard himself never published the exact coordinates after his expedition. He called artifact recovery from the site a form of grave robbing. A later expedition in 2001 did bring paying passengers down to view the wreck, which sparked controversy, but nothing was taken. The wreck is expected to endure for centuries. The freezing water, total darkness, and absence of the organisms that consume shallower wrecks mean the Bismarck is decaying at an incredibly slow rate. Researchers believe the hull could remain recognizable for several hundred more years, so that is where it rests. 3 miles beneath the North Atlantic, upright on the ocean floor, guns still in position, protected by law and guarded by depth. The most powerful warship Nazi Germany ever built lasted 8 days in combat. It sailed out looking for a fight, found one immediately, and never came home.